Welcome to the iNetrepreneur Radio Show. We are so honored to bring you your host, the ultimate celebritypreneur, connecting businesses and celebrities worldwide. Winner of the Networking Organization of the Year, best-selling author, magazine publisher, trainer, and owner and founder of Network Together and the iNetrepreneur Media Network for magazines, TV, and radio network. We're excited to bring you your host, Mr. Robert W. Jones.
All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to the iNetrepreneur Network Radio Show. I am so excited to be in the seat. It's been such a crazy year so far. We have had journal book launches, we had quote book launches, we've been creating calendars, we have the New York trip coming up, we have book launches, book signings, all sorts of crazy things. But I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad you're here with us today. Just a little bit of what's going around in the community first. I just want to remind everyone that the #1 international selling book series and our 5th book, 365 Days of Abundance Quote, is out on Amazon. We're throwing a party next week on the 18th via Zoom. You can go to ntevents.net. That's ntevents.net. Look at the calendar and click and just come on and have a virtual party with us. We've also released, even before the quote book came out, the 365 Days of Abundance Journaling. And so what we have is we have all 365 quotes that are in the quote book, and we have just the quotes and lines so people can create reflections and use that as maybe a daily journal. And so, what better subject matter than abundance? So it's on Amazon, and I just want to put up here. So if you want to take a picture, if you want to get it, it's 365 Days of Abundance Journaling. It's now on Amazon. And there's all that number. So at any rate, the nice thing about it is right now it's $12.50 as our kickoff price, $12.50. Such a deal. We want you to get the journaling book along with the quote book, which comes out in its glory next week. So, also please we love your likes. Go to facebook.com/iNetrepreneur Radio or YouTube/iNetrepreneur Radio. We love your likes and bookmark us so you can find us next time you want to come visit our show. Also, I want to remind everyone that we have 2 magazines. You can do print on demand or order them. They're free in the digital version. You can get the Contemporary Woman magazine or the iNetrepreneur Network magazine. And as a reminder, I always like to say this again and again and again, because I have a firm belief if I say something enough, everyone's going to start to believe me over time. And what I'm going to say is because what you see is you can't forget, right? So for chapter events, author classes, pop-up summits, go to ntevents.net. Yes, it's ntevents.net. And also we're sharing a new opening of our new Mesa East chapter, but we also have opened up a chapter in Costa Rica, and we have one coming and opening up in New York. So I'm really excited about that. But no further ado, I'm going to bring one of my besties. She's coming in today, and that is SueZee Finley. Hi, SueZee.
Well, but I'm super excited to be here, and I did not know you're opening a New York chapter. I want to hear about that.
Yeah, yes. Right, probably close to where you are. So we're really excited about having a chapter open up in Albany, New York, where the state capital is. So I know New York isn't like Texas, but it's there. It's just down the street, SueZee. You can get there.
Well, but it's far. Make it Manhattan.
That would be great. I love that. So again, I'm with SueZee Finley. She's founder of the Happiness Network and also Acoustix Therapeutics, which is up on the screen as well. Her date is 11/1/2025. You can contact her by going to SueZeeQuest. That's SueZee Quest, QU, at gmail.com, or you can call her at 631-988-0613. Again, 631-988-0613. Or, if you just want to reach out and touch, you can text. So SueZee, thank you so much for being here today. And, I get to know you quite a bit from what you do now with Acoustix Therapeutics. and also with the Happiness Hive Network, which I think is a really cool. I mean, the Happiness Now Network, which I think is a really cool place. Now, you were a Hive at one time, so you're changing things up.
Yeah, no, my group is still the Hive.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because we got Hive and we got Now, we got Network, and we got Happiness. The only thing we're missing right now is the B. I'm looking for the B. So, but I don't know a lot about you really before Acoustix Therapeutics. Tell us a little bit about, who SueZee was before she journeyed into this thing called entrepreneurship.
Okay. Well, before I was actually a sculptor and an art teacher, and I love sculpting, but I ended up with lupus and I couldn't sculpt anymore. My hands got very arthritic and crippled.
Yep.
And it was sound therapy that actually had me change my careers, because I was told I couldn't sculpt anymore. I couldn't do all the things that I loved. I had only 3 hours of energy a day. And sound therapy is what gave me the energy back. And I became obsessed with, oh my God, everybody's got to learn about sound, because the turning point for me was when I learned that frequencies were nutrients, and that we're electrical beings. We're electric, we're magnetic, and we're light. And when we realize that we can harness frequencies from standing on the earth, right? You get the magnetism from the earth. The sun helps set your circadian rhythm. All these things to make you healthy are all around you. And all the things they were giving me, they were trying to give me, different pharmaceutical drugs and even vitamins, could only get me so far. I got like 70% better, couldn't get the energy back. So I ended up switching over to sound therapy. And now I can get back and sculpt and do all the things I still love. So I originally was a sculptor and a teacher.
Yeah, and I can imagine that sculpting really is a very physical type of pursuit. And, you do only have so much time, in your hands, like so much time in your body. I was an avid half marathon runner. I was, very athletic in the Marines. And, there came a time when my body said no more. And my doctor said, one thing that people don't understand is every body only has so much, like a tire only has so much tread on it. And, in a way, those were words that kind of stun a little bit, because for me, my meditation, my therapy, my relief or even release was running. And I can imagine in a certain way when you felt like you were breaking down, as a sculptor, that probably struck maybe a chord of fear in you, didn't it?
Oh, big time. Because they also told me, the way they told you only had so much tread on you, you only have so much energy. And they said I had depleted it, because besides being a sculptor, I was a caregiver for my family. And they said, you burnt out your adrenals. You're beyond, like, you can't get back. It's a lupus thing. Yeah, they pretty much told me I was done. And you can literally charge yourself up. This is why I love frequency medicine. You can recharge. And this is something we are all missing. So that's why I became so excited. So I'm like, oh my God, this is wrong. I can tell everybody you can recharge.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that when you talk about like sound therapy, I think there is a sense of abundance when it comes to sound, isn't there?
That's why I was very excited to be in the abundance book. Yes. Because it's all around us. As I say, it's all around us. The colors you wear, the scents you smell, the sun, everything has frequencies. The people that you're with. It's so important. Like when they tell you the 5 people you surround yourself with really a reflection of who you're going to be. It's true, because it's vibration. And we're vibrational beings, and we pick up the frequency of everybody around us.
Well, and I think what we talk about, like, as you say, sound can be nutrients, and sound can raise the vibration. But I think for some people, can't sound also just stabilize, the vibration of sound stabilize some people, because some people really are up and down, and they need a sense of foundation. They need a sense of stability. They need a sense, and part of stability and foundation is purpose, isn't it?
Yes. And exactly what you said about stability, sound helps self-regulate. And one of the most important things I tell people is to hum. Hum is the easiest way to self-regulate. And we all did this as children. If you ever remember, like, coloring, like being a little kid and coloring, you're actually resetting your nervous system. And autistic children, a lot of times they're humming and they're told, oh, don't hum, you're making noise. But that's the best way to self-regulate. So it's something we do naturally, and we've been told not to. So I tell everybody, hum. No matter what type of mood you're in, it changes that brainwave state and it gets you back into a good mood.
Yeah, one of the things I love is you did create something called your Happiness Now Network, and like I have iNetrepreneur Network, the Art of Connection movement. I also have my tech group and a men's group. And people are like, "What am I, a groupie or something?" I'm like, "No, I'm not a groupie." I just have found that the different group settings provide different desires, wants, and likes that I have in my life, and I think just like, some people, they look for friendship, or they look for a coach, or, maybe they need to go rough times and they get a counselor or something like that. I think having a lot of positive people around us, create a space, that we can be psychologically safe in. And I think that's important as well. Tell me about your network, and is it a psychologically safe space that you provide for others?
Yes, it's actually two things. It's a podcast and an app that's going to be launching in a month. And the purpose of it is to create a spot, no matter what's going on in your life, you can go there and find somebody to help you through it. Because everybody's different. Like for me, sound therapy is what helped me. But I met a guy that was...
And everyone, I apologize. The feed may be slowing down with SueZee coming in from New York. And I know that there's some cold weather up there. But here she's coming back.
Frozen.
Yeah. Well, and I know up in New York, John Verico had told me that there's a lot of snow and rough weather up there. So, you're here with us, and, I will wait for that purposeful pause. Okay.
Okay. So I'm back from the pause, and, we were talking about, the network. So it's a place where no matter what's going on in your life, I want to have a different practitioner there that can help you. So for me, it was sound therapy that helped me, but I met a guy that had on my podcast, it's also going to be in the app, that was clinically depressed, and he became a salsa dancer and then a salsa teacher, and he opened up a salsa school. And that's what got him out of depression. And he has the school basically too for people that aren't great dancers, because he loved dancing and he wanted a school, and they told him he wasn't talented enough. And he actually opened a school for people that aren't like great dancers, that are afraid of dancing. I'm like, oh my God, I would have loved to have had you to teach it, because so many of us, we feel like embarrassed and inhibited about dancing, and he gets people out of their shell and out of depression. So that's one of the people that's going to be there. And grief counselor. So no matter what's going on, if you had a loss, or maybe you have a chemical imbalance because of the foods you eat, I have someone on there that can tell you what foods actually change your brainwave state. So all different people, no matter what's going on in your life, I want somebody there that can relate to you.
Yeah, and I love that. And I'm very different now, SueZee, than I was before. I was, I call myself a recovering programmer. I've worked for some of the largest brand names that people may know: Linsco Private Ledger, Realtor.com, GoDaddy, Intuit. And in that world, it very much was, my sphere was mostly knowledge. Everything that I produced was kind of from the knowledge base. I wasn't really tapping into these other spheres of emotion. What was the I? Emotional intelligence? Are you kidding me? I mean, that doesn't get anything done. My health was always there, but then there was also spirituality. There was kind of providing currency. Which was the my belief set of money. And one of the things I really think about in I journey back is, was I accomplished? Absolutely. But was I happy? I look back, and in a way, I was maybe academically or mentally kind of happy, because the things I were doing were always the right thing. But I also found that I wasn't a complete person. And one of the things that I really love that you're doing is you're helping people become a complete person with all these different spheres that compose all of us, kind of like that whole health, that self-care, right?
Yes. And art is part of it. I love this. I'm encompassing art back into what I'm doing, because art is another way of getting you into like flow state and bringing you happiness. And the one thing that I was doing myself too, that I'm like, oh no, I'm not, like, I wasn't practicing when I was preaching. I became an entrepreneur to talk about happiness and all this stuff, but I was working so hard, I wasn't really happy. I'm like, wait a minute, this is the purpose. And the most important thing I can tell everybody right now is that we think that, we don't have the time to do something like sculpting, or maybe go on a ski trip and take these moments that truly make you happy. When you actually slow down and you do those fun things, when you go back to work, you'll be in more of a flow state, and you can get more done because you took that hour or that 2 hours and maybe that weekend to yourself than if you work through it. And entrepreneurs have a hard time of letting go and stopping. And I know because I was doing that too. So take that time, take that vacation, take that art class, sit on the couch, binge watch Netflix a little bit, whatever it is that gets you, do it, and then you'll be better for it.
One of my sayings is entrepreneurs spend far too much time on what they do and not enough time on who they are. Mm-hmm. And if they spend a little bit more time on who they are, they'll find how much easier the things they do become. And I think that's true of a lot of things in our life. When I was in programming, when I was in technology, it could speed our communication, but it didn't speed our relationships either. And, the other relationship that we kind of, forget about is the relationship with ourselves. Don't fast track yourself, take that time to have that care time, to have that internal growth. Lastly, I just want to kind of ask you another question. You've been a part of the Art of Connection journey for a couple of books now, and hopefully you'll be on the journey for the next book.
Forever.
Forever. I'll take that. Okay.
Not going anywhere.
But like with me, I had an epiphany moment when I had my first book signing, and I didn't know what to expect. I was thinking about sitting behind this desk, like at a Barnes and Noble store and stuff like that, and it ended up being a clubhouse, and like 40 something people came. And I remember Angel Marie Monicelli, she asked me, she's like, what's the most important thing that you learned about, being a part of and being in, creating the Art of Connection book series. And I remember she put me on the spot, and the first thing that came to me is, well, the thing I've learned is it's not about the book. It's not about the book. It's about the people in the book and the journeys and the stories that we all get to share. And I just remember that. And, and ever since then, I don't look at the book as a book anymore. I actually just look at it as a conduit to a bunch of other just really great people that I want to meet all of them. So tell me about your why in being a part of all this craziness.
Actually, it is the same why, because I was in it the first time and had such a good time. I told everybody I knew, and I exactly what you said. I said, it's not even about the book. You meet the greatest people. And it becomes a directory of, first of all, of if you haven't met me yet, of future friends, because every time I read something, I'm like, oh, I have to meet them too. And because I have a podcast, I love like reading something like, oh, I want this one on my podcast, and I want that one on my podcast. And then I end up with 365 new friends, every year. And I had John Verico on my podcast. He was the most phenomenal guest. Kathy Nesbitt, Leslie Klein. So you end up forming great friendships and business partnerships. And then because of this book, I realized I love writing. And so now I'm working on my own book. So it got me in that whole mood, like, oh my God, I love writing. I love the idea of a book launch. I brought my sister in, and she's so excited. She's starting now. She's setting up my office with sunflowers. And she's like, we're going to have a big sunflower themed book launch party. And she's got everything like ready to go. Like, she's so excited. So you've got her out writing. And I'm really excited for that.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to get to meet you in New York. I mean, oh my goodness. Like I like to say, high five, shake hands, kiss babies, and the rest, we're going to do out there. Again, everyone, I'm with SueZee Finley. She's the founder of the Happiness Now Network, also Acoustix Therapeutics. Her date, or one of the dates, is 11/1, November 1st, 2025, in the book that's this year, the Abundance Book. You can contact her at SueZeeQuest@gmail.com. Again, SueZeeQuest@gmail.com, or call her at 631-988-0613. SueZee, thank you so much for being on the show with me today. I look forward to seeing you when we have the recap a little bit later.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow, always so great having SueZee Finley and having just a little. I feel like we just have a little jam session. SueZee, I need to get a tuning fork. We'll do dueling tooling forks, okay, or something like that, next time. So, well, I am ready to bring our next guest to the stage today, and my next guest is Karsten Alva-Jorgensen. Welcome, Karsten. How are you?
I'm so great. It's great to be here with you, Robert. And yes, SueZee is she rocks.
She is. I mean, I could see her as a metalhead back in the day. I mean, just with the hair and the glam and all that. Everyone, I'm with Karsten Alva-Jorgensen, founder and executive growth Circle Limited. His date in the book is 5/26/2025. I love that date. I think I have 5/25. We are neighbors in the book, Karsten. So I'm really excited about that. You can contact him at Karsten@executivegrowthcircle.com. Again, that's Karsten with a K at executivegrowthcircle.com, or call him at +, which for South Africa, you got to get that in there for the 44. So +44778-524-327, and you can reach out and touch Karsten out there in South Africa. And again, I am so glad that you're here today. This is the first time you're on the show. And so Karsten, the first time that someone comes on the show, I always like to start with this. Just tell me a little bit about your background, where you grew up, where you went to school, and maybe a claim to fame or something that's just really unusual about yourself, that we just don't know about you. Just tell us a little bit about you, because I have a theory that says, people care about your what and your how once they know your who and your why.
Absolutely. So it's such a pleasure to be here with you and the other authors today and all the guests here. I was born in Copenhagen, and I'm truly a very international person. I was actually conceived on the high seas. I had a very young mother who was on the way to do a program in the Fiji Islands, and she had a romance. So I'm the love boat conception in the Pacific. I have an Australian birth father, an American birth mother. I grew up in Denmark, and I've lived and worked in many different countries. As of today, I have a house in São Paulo, just outside of São Paulo, Brazil. But today I'm in South Africa, and I love being on the continent of Africa. I love being in South Africa, and it's just very, very special to me.
I love that. So, almost a claim to fame is just your life really has been, a travelogue,
Yes.
of different places and different peoples. And, one of the things I've always wondered is, as you've, I always feel like we always continue to grow, and some of us keep that growth rate very fast, and others, temper it a little bit. I can tell that you love to accelerate your growth. Tell me just a little bit of these journeys, and how has it affected your viewpoint, your lens when you look at the world, and especially how you look at Africa?
There's really two things. One, I'm a big fan, and I believe I follow the growth mindset. And I have the pleasure of working with people of all different backgrounds and fortunes in life. And I'm a firm believer, no matter our circumstances, no matter where we find ourselves, we have truly infinite potential to keep growing and expanding and learning. And we do that best when we do it with others. I'm a person who is, I think, one is for created family. I was adopted by a person who was adopted, my Danish mother. And I've also adopted 2 children myself and raised 2 children in the United Kingdom. And I feel that creating meaningful connection and creating family in the broadest sense of that is what my life is about, and then helping people to grow into their purpose.
I think it is very, very important that we guide and we help and we support as parents, our children to grow into their purpose. And the faster we realize that as parents, the faster they do find that purpose. I believe that everyone has gifts. It's our job to go find those gifts. But as parents, it's also, we're here to help them develop those gifts. And we share something in Karsten. My youngest daughter is adopted, and she just had her 13th birthday. And it really is incredible. In my network, kids can come to our network. It's an open flow state where if once they turn 13 and they're well behaved, they can come into the network, because it's not just what they learn. Really, it's what they're absorbing and what they see. And they see those relationships and they feel those bonds, and there's a certain amount of mentoring that occurs just through association, isn't there?
Absolutely. There's a famous saying that we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, and I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Mm-hmm.
As well, I believe probably many of our listeners would agree that we're living in an ever-increasing, uncertain world. There is rapid change, and it's difficult to know how to prepare for that future that none of us exactly know what it's going to look like. But there are certain skills that we can all give to our young people, and that's a skill of community, of belonging, of self-belief, of resilience, of connection, of communication. I think those fundamental skills, the human skills, are going to be standing people in good stead for a long time. And in doing that, I love to work with young people, mentor young people. I have the pleasure in my business to work with CEOs and founders that are making an incredible difference in the world. But I also work with people in organizations, and I mentor young people. So I get to work throughout that spectrum. And in all of that, I think a commonality is the importance of knowing what your life's task is, knowing what your purpose is, and finding what you truly are passionate about, what you love to do, and do that.
And you bring up something really interesting, because it's something that it really drives in me. And when we talk about corporations and we talk about businesses, and I talked a little bit in the segment previous to this one, it's always about vision and mission and goals, financial statements, and in my world in corporation, it was always about driving revenues. And we always said in my world, if you can control their time, we can control their dime. But there was other thing in corporations that I think that we miss in training. It's what you're bringing up right now. What about the conversations, through the communications, the collaborations, the committed bonds that are created through, that organization itself. And in many ways, we actually don't look at corporate culture as really like tribes in and of themselves. And we don't take enough time to really nurture those tribes, do we?
Often we don't, and I think it's a big mistake. First of all, this world is crying out for what I call responsible leadership that's conscious, that is purpose-led, and does come from a vision that encompasses all of the different stakeholders in the system: the investors, the employees, the customers, the suppliers, the community that we operate in, and indeed the earth. Those skills are developed. Few people are born with those, and that's one of our biggest missions. But amongst all of those things I mentioned, it's the sense of purpose. What are we here for? And what are the values that we have that ultimately, I think, are the glue that binds and connects everyone in that system?
Well, and I think for me, social conventions are really the true atoms to me of bonds. And one of my biggest worries when I was in programming, I thought to myself, I'm like, my goodness, if we keep training our youth to become so attached to these things, they're spending so much time. I said, our social conventions, our bonds are going to fade away like the language of Latin, over time.
Absolutely.
And we really need to look back at what what does engagement between people look like? How can we keep that alive and thriving? And I don't think that there's enough of that out there right now. And do you agree with that, Karsten, or would you just...
100%. I mean, I see that every single day in my work. There is this irony that while on the one hand, we have in many ways the best tools available for connecting, we are somehow more connected than ever. At the same time, we're also more disconnected.
Yep.
People are spending more time alone. They're feeling more lonely, more isolated. And it really is creating a crisis in well-being.
Yeah.
So that's why if somebody here is wondering, what is a growth circle? We put 12 people together who form an intimate bond, who grow and learn and thrive together, and who find that accelerates not only their growth and learning and leadership, but also their well-being.
Mm. You know, and I think one of the biggest things that I find that comes from that is people want to feel valued. And when you create a close-knit community like that, you find that place of value. And those who don't offer that value or don't treat others with value, they get kicked out, don't they?
Absolutely. And then there's a sense of the leadership truly matters, values-based leadership, servant-based leadership, or I sometimes call it heart-based leadership. Organizations are crying out for that. And what I'm finding also that young people are looking to join those types of organizations. Young people are more than ever more skeptical and sometimes cynical about what am I going to give my life to? What am I give my time to? Who am I going to work with? And who am I going to work for? They're not willing to necessarily suck it up, if you will, in a way that maybe earlier generations like mine did. And they are looking for inspiration. They're looking for clear purpose, a clear mission, and inspiring leadership.
You know, well, you know, and one of the things that I look at is, you know, it can be used as a superpower. It doesn't exist, and that is the attribute of attachment. You know, I think that attachment is one of the most powerful things that a community can create. Don't you?
I certainly do. I mean, I think we sometimes forget that human beings are emotional beings first. Yeah, we got to feel that we truly belong and that we are valued, that we are seen, that we are heard, that our contribution matters, and that we understand how we fit into that bigger picture of what's being created. And if we as leaders don't spend the time making that clear and checking in with our people on a regular basis, the economic costs are huge. The results on business growth is limited if we don't do that. But we have that almost hidden power in just about any organization we do diagnostics of. We see that there is a lot of opportunity to really unlock the human potential and the energy of that, which is directly correlated to economic results. Well,
you know, and here's another thing that in my mind, I think that I just want to bring out there. And that is when I think of executive, you know, of course, it's the CEO and the C-suite. But I think what I love in a way when you're looking at, you know, an executive growth circle, it's not just the naming conventions of what a person is. It's actually being an executive of yourself. Isn't that correct?
For sure. I mean, it starts with self-mastery. And we're doing a monthly complimentary masterclasses for anyone can join. They can look us up on any of the contacts you shared, and everybody is welcomed. We have a tremendously diverse community from 22-year-olds to 65-year-olds, growing and learning together. And just as you point out, it is really the coming together around a common purpose that we can be better together and we can support and encourage each other on the journey to keep going and to keep growing.
You know, one of the things I like to look at, and I like to apply knowledge in differing ways. And once you learn knowledge, it's really hard to escape it. But also once you learn knowledge, you can also apply it to different things. And I'm going to go back to, we're almost done with the segment, but I'd love to hear your voice on this. We create vision statements for companies, but very seldom do we necessarily create vision statements for ourselves. Why is that?
Well, I think it's hard to do alone. I think it really is something we do in community with others. And I do believe increasingly, we all need to think about our personal brand and what we are for and what our personal purpose is in life. What is our life task? And then we can give ourselves to other causes as well, but we come from a really strong
Just
foundation.
a little bit of breakup. We are coming from South Africa.
Sorry for that. But it's difficult to do alone. So if anybody wants to do that, we do complimentary consultations. It's what I love to do. I sometimes say our purpose is to be here to help you find your purpose.
I love that. I love that. Everyone, I'm with Karsten Alva-Jorgensen, founder and executive and founder of Executive Growth Circle Ltd. His date in the Abundance Book is 5/26/25. You can contact him. I love that. At Karsten at executivegrowthcircle.com. That's Karsten with a K at executivegrowthcircle.com, or call +44 778-524-3257. Now, I'm in Phoenix, Karsten, and you're in South Africa. What time is it there?
Well, I want anybody to call anytime. Right now, it's just gone 10 past midnight.
Oh, my goodness. Well,
it's
I thank you. I mean, what do they say? It's midnight somewhere, right? And you happen to be in that somewhere. Oh, my goodness. Karsten, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you taking your time out to be with me here today.
Thank you.
Wow, Karsten, thank you so much for being on the show today. My head is already spinning on crazy things that you and I can do. We just got to get the time to do them. I am so excited about getting to meet you today. Absolutely. And now I'm bringing another guest to the stage, and I am excited that she's here as well. I'm with Tonya. Tonya, how are you?
Oh, I'm having a great day and so pleased to be here. Feeling very blessed.
I feel blessed too, and I love it. I'm with Tonya Swainston. She is the founder and CEO. I love that. CEO is the way to go, as my mom would say, of 123 Super Empowered. Her date in the Abundance Book is 3/26/2025. You can contact her at 123superempowered@gmail.com. Again, 123, just the numbers, 123 at superempowered@gmail.com, or you can give her a call. She's strong enough to have her number out there at 505-639-9959. Again, 505-639-9959. And I know where 505 is. That's in New Mexico, isn't it?
Yes, I love New Mexico.
New Mexico is a great state. It's like so many of us in Arizona, we always head west to California. And I'm like, hey, come on, let's blaze a new trail. Let's go to New Mexico, everyone. I think that you'll enjoy it. Tonya, I am so glad that you're on the show today. And there's so many amazing things that I want to ask. But as I did with Karsten, I always kind of just want to ask just a little bit about, your background, a little bit about the who you are. where you were born, where you grew up, maybe schools that you went to, and maybe a claim to fame, like you were a national hot dog eating champion, or if not that, maybe like, maybe something that's just unusual that you've done or do that we don't know about you. So let me hear a little bit about Tonya.
Well, let's see. I started off in Pennsylvania. I grew up in Gulf Mills, and then I moved to New Mexico when I got married. I've lived in New Mexico and Gulf Mills area. That's kind of where I have done all my teaching and my learning. Growing up, I went to school at Millersville University, and that was in Pennsylvania. I also have been so fortunate to, over my career, work with some of the most amazing women and gentlemen that I have come across here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Rio Rancho, New Mexico, and in Pennsylvania. I've been so blessed to work at the top tier school in Pennsylvania and also here in New Mexico with Title I schools that are in need of extra support.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of interested with Pennsylvania and New Mexico. I have to admit, coming from Pennsylvania and going to New Mexico, those states are radically different in many ways, aren't they?
They are. I think the climate here is easier on your body. That was the reason why we moved here. My husband needed a climate that would handle his marine body as it aged.
Hurrah.
So the dry heat here, or the dry, moist, what am I trying to say? It's less moist, cold in the winter, and the dry here is very good on your body.
One of the things that, a lot of people, kind of from their conventional wisdom, they look at, Pennsylvania as, well, it was one of the original 13 colonies. It has a rich history and education. They have a good foundation. And then we go over to New Mexico. And, we think of that as, being like a state that doesn't have the greatest education. It kind of is a latecomer in the United States. And it doesn't have a rich tradition of actually producing, people that you would find in the academic circles. Is there some truth of that? Is New Mexico, changing radically? And if not, what are we doing to change the climate in New Mexico to get it to start striving and thriving?
That's a great question. A year ago, I contacted the early childhood department in New Mexico here in Santa Fe. And I had a little chat with them about what I did in my classroom that worked. And they told me that one of the things that I was doing, nothing like that was happening in the preschools in New Mexico. And we chatted for a while. They took notes, and I also took some notes. I realized some things that were missing in what they are making strides in fixing the education system here. I know they're trying. What I did was I was able to pull it together in a unique and different way. And so I was trying to help them. When we got off the phone, I realized they can't do it without me. And I realized that, they probably won't call me back. So how can I help my state? And that was when my business started to grow. When I met SueZee, and she recommended the book, The Art of Connection, 365 Days of Abundance. And when I joined that journey, as I was building this program to help families, daycare workers, this is my goal, my original goal, the families here in New Mexico, daycare staff and preschool staff. I wanted to mentor them like I had been so blessed to receive over my career. And there are amazing teachers here in New Mexico. They're here. I've learned from them. I was so blessed to have learned from them when I was young. And collaborated to make a program that was used in a video journal for teaching teachers how to teach in a way where full inclusion was a reality. And this is many years ago. That job helped me land a job at one of the top school districts in the United States. So I've gone back and forth from Pennsylvania and New Mexico. I'm currently now in New Mexico trying to use what I've learned over the years with differentiated instruction and being a leader in differentiated instruction to help my state. So that's what I've been working on, and it's been going really well.
Well, and you bring up some things that come to my mind. I mean, education works better in healthy economies. Education works better in communities that are provided all of their essential needs. And I think in New Mexico, there are areas that there's needs. I know that my aunt, she was the superintendent of schools at Navajo Nation here in Arizona. And, one of her biggest crises was, to educate, you have to stabilize the economy, so it takes care in the needs of the people. And if you can't take care of the needs of your people, education really doesn't take a front seat for opportunity and growth. Are there areas in New Mexico that are similar to that? Are you also, helping grow community and leading through education, Tonya?
I've worked in schools like that, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And those families can thrive in situations where they're feeling trauma. My husband grew up in that environment and he became very successful. So I look at his experience, I look at my students' experiences, and I also see that within situations like New Mexico, we don't have to fix everything to make a huge difference and impact in education. But we have to start molding things differently so that we're all working together and we're including the children. The children piece is what was happening in my classroom, where I was talking to the children, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. I was asking them, what do they want to learn? And when they buy into their education, when they start, what is learning? They don't know what learning is.
Yeah.
And so that was what I was sharing with them, that they have power. Those children have our littles have power, and we've got to empower our little people with knowledge that they can take learning to a new level. So what was happening in my classroom that shocked them when I called the state was I had a student, my top little bilingual boy, and I'm a monolingual teacher. So he came into my classroom and he said, "Can you check me?" And honestly, I looked at my assistant and I said, "What does he want me to do?" And the mother said, "He wants you to check. He wants to show you he knows his letter." He had made a letter request to learn his mother's first letter in her name. And he wanted to show it off that he knew it. Mm. And that was, in my mind as a teacher, he wanted to show me that he learned something. Yeah. Which I'm looking at it as, if he knows it, I can check it off my list of teacher things I have to teach. So in my classroom, my students were learning faster. One of the pieces was this self-directed board that I had made, where I asked the children questions and they got to pick what they wanted to learn. And then the teacher, my EA, my assistant, and myself, we had them posted around the room. So at all times during the day, whenever we were interacting with a child, we could look at their board, what they want to learn, and we could incorporate that learning into their play. And that was one of the things I did in my classroom that helped me drastically increase my pre-K assessment data. And so that's been a catalyst for my business.
Now, one of the things that kind of intrigued me, of course, the current book that's coming out is 365 Days of Abundance. And you coined kind of like a new educational model, kind of creating some different, alternative standards than what most of us know. And you call this abundant learning. Tell us a little bit about abundant learning and how do educational standards work in the abundant learning environment?
So what I've taken is a system, and my system has evolved from a baby reading program to a special ed middle school or anyone who needs to learn paragraph writing system. So I've leveled it to grow with the learner. And as that happens, I have found that children, the effortless, abundant learning that I'm talking about comes from the child. And the teachers teach something, but it's with the expectations of the child being the child learns it so quickly and so deeply that they can then teach others. So the abundant and effortless learning comes from the teaching, and it's not always the teacher. The children become the teachers. And that's where things spread very quickly.
So we're coming to the end of this segment, but one of the things I really wanted to point out is that I noticed that you have a special heart for special education. And I'm old enough, when I was in Omaha, Nebraska, I was a part of, they were trialing, it's been that long, special education into the public schools. And I was one of the first graduates from a special education program. When I was young, I was very shy, and I had a speech impediment. And part of that speech impediment is they created, this is pre-IEP, of course, they created a program, to help me succeed. And I see that you do that as well. Not every teacher has the stomach to take on special education, but you do. And, my comment is thank you, because I was one of those kids. And my question is, why you?
That's a great question. When I started kindergarten, I wasn't ready for kindergarten. And that is why I became a teacher. So all these things that have happened over my career and my life have started because my sister was easier and my mother didn't know what to do with me. So I needed a lot of support in school as well. I learn best when I see it, hear it, and write it. And not everybody learns that way, but I need that to learn best.
Right.
So as the years passed and I was working with those amazing teachers in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, those teachers taught me so much. And then I went on to take more courses and learn more. I took a course and they actually they did things to us to make us disabled. It was really, really quite empowering as a teacher, because then, SueZee had mentioned earlier that the humming and how some kids need to hum. Right. I would teach my students in my classroom. Not everybody gets the same, but we all get what we need. And so there was this understanding, if somebody needs to hum, well, maybe they need to hum, over there, and we're going to work over here so they can do what they need and we can do what we need. Yeah. So there's that, everybody needs to get what they need. Not everybody needs the same thing. What I've found is when we teach to a certain group, you're meeting the needs of the regular ed students and the gifted students as well. So there are ways to meet children where they're at, and then very little modifications can happen, and everyone's getting what they need just to thrive.
I love that. Everyone, I am with Tonya Swainston, founder and CEO of 123 Super Empowered. Her date in the abundance book is 3/26/2025. Oh my goodness, I got to go back and read that page again, right? Contact her at 123 superempowered@gmail.com. That's 123, the numbers, superempowered@gmail.com, or call her at 505-639-9959. Yes, that is New Mexico, the 505. Tonya, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and bring the other guest onto the stage. And man, thank you so much. You guys make this hour go by way too quickly, because I could have asked about way too many questions for each and every one of you. And I just, what I'd like to do is I'd like to start with SueZee and just, SueZee, a takeaway or a comment or a question of Tonya and Karsten. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm excited to hear about the humming. So how does that work? When you say I put them over there to hum, do you have a humming?
I'm giving you it was just an example of if there was a child that needed to make noises or tap or do something. I actually had in my classroom, I had a really cute little area where they could just go, meaning they got up and they got to go there. They don't have to ask if they need some time out to get themselves together, or if they want to do whatever they want to do, they can go there. And so it was a little space for them.
I love that.
Oh, I love that too.
And with Karsten, anything that stood out for you with my conversation with Karsten, SueZee?
With Karsten, I'm really impressed with your age range. You said 22-year-olds to 65. So what is it that you're doing that you feel that you're getting that wide range? A lot of times people saying, I can only work with these people, but that's huge. So I'm very impressed with that.
I think there are different things that can bind us together. And in my whole life, I never thought age was a very important factor. Well, I remember it was like 10 or 12. I made friends on a beach with a lady who was like probably 70. And I would go visit, when my parents would take me there and go, and we just had that kind of connection.
And also I want to also, bring in Karsten. And Karsten, anything that that you heard from Tonya or from SueZee that resonated with you?
Yeah, so much. I mean, I'm just, first of all, grateful to be here with such two phenomenal human beings. I get to meet with SueZee actually every week. And she's so special. So what SueZee is using sound for healing. And sound is, in my life, also proven to be, and with my clients, have many healing properties. One of them is that it can really affect our vagus nerve. And if there's one thing that almost every client I have at some level is dealing with, it's anxiety, at least in certain circumstances and situations. And we can use sound, we can learn how to use sound to really affect our vagus nerve and activate our parasympathetic nervous system and calm ourselves very quickly. So I encourage anybody who wants to know about that, get in contact with SueZee and find the magic of sound. And for the young people, I mean, what a blessing is there anything more important in life than to work with our youngest members of society and to help them shine in the ways that we heard today? So Tonya, thank you so much for what you do.
Yeah, Tonya. Yeah, thank you. And like I said, it resonated with me, just your work with, being brave enough to be with the special education side, because, people actually come out of it on the bright side. And I feel very fortunate that I made it through and got to accomplish the things that I did in life, because maybe I wouldn't have if I didn't have that head start. Comment on Karsten or SueZee. Any takeaways for you?
Well, I've been blessed to have already experienced SueZee with her sound therapy. And yes, that vagus nerve is a powerful nerve. And I highly recommend contacting SueZee. And I want to go to your next one anyway. And for Karsten, I was thinking about what you said about no matter where we are, we have infinite potential. And I think a year ago, when you were talking about that, I realized that I needed to do what I'm doing and find the purpose that I need to take on in order to fulfill my purpose. And that is to help the children learn quickly and empower them. So thank you for bringing that to my mind again. It's been a great year, and I'm excited for the future, and so blessed to be with all of you.
Oh, absolutely. My only thought is what happens to the vagus nerve stays with the vagus nerve.
That's adorable.
I love that.
I would say often it does not, unfortunately.
Just all you Vegas lovers out there, don't gamble on it then. So, I appreciate each and every one of you. I felt like we weave together a wonderful quilt of information and togetherness and abundance. And I just want to say thank you for each and every one of you on being on this show today. And, my abundance is let's do this again sometime. Tonya, Karsten, SueZee, thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate each and every one of you. But as all shows do, they must come to an end. And today it's ending right now. But until next time, until I see you again, have a great rest of the week, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been watching the iNetrepreneur Show, a production of the iNetrepreneur Radio Network with host Robert W. Jones. Join Robert each week as he visits with new and exciting guests who inspire, teach, and mentor entrepreneurs worldwide. Follow Robert each Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and 8:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.